So, originally, after doing my 10 favorite werewolf movies, I was thinking of doing 10 favorite vampire movies, which I still will do. But the thing is, it's really hard because I didn't want it to be filled with Dracula movies. So, I decided to do a 10 favorite Dracula movies because there are a shit ton of them. So, I will still be doing like my 10 favorite vampire movies, but I decided to have Dracula because he has enough filmography of his own that he can carry a favorite movies. My 10 favorite Dracula movies. So here we are with that list. As all, this is not a top 10 list. This is just my 10 favorite almost said werewolf. My 10 favorite Dracula films. And this basically, if you think a movie shouldn't be on here or should be on here, that's totally fine. I'm always excited to hear your 10 favorite Dracula movies. But let's cut the bullshit and talk about 3 of those 10 because it's hard not to talk about them. Starting off with Dracula from 1931. Dracula from 1931 is the progenitor. I know, and Nosferatu isn't on this list. I would say it gets an honorable mention, but you'll probably see it in the vampire list because I kind of consider, even though yes, Nosferatu and Dracula are kind of intrinsically tied, I do consider, especially with the Eggers remake, Orlok his own character now. But anyway, getting back to this. Dracula 1931 is what when you think Dracula, you think of this monster. You straight up think of Dracula. Like this, Bela Lugosi's performance. It is also the start of I would argue, the true start of the Universal monsters. Even though, Phantom of the Opera was the technical first one, this is the one that really showed Universal to be a house of horror. So yeah. What more can I say about it, really? Honestly, what can I say? So next up is going to be the next few movies. And of course we're going to, this is from a movie collection I have. Horror of Dracula. Of course, Christopher Lee, you can't have 10 favorite Dracula films without having Christopher Lee's Dracula on here. It's always the great debate. Lugosi, Lee, or the other guy we're going to talk about, which you already know. But Horror of Dracula, or if you want to go by the original Hammer title, Dracula, Horror of Dracula is what solidified Lee as a main horror star. Even though, yes, he had done The Creature, he had done The Monster in Curse of Frankenstein, and he had played the Mummy, this basically intrinsically tied Lee to Dracula. And it also is just a great gothic horror movie. Him and Peter Cushing in that final fight scene is amazing. It's a beautiful movie. It is a great horror movie, and was really, that and Curse of Frankenstein are what really made Hammer Films the film franchise that it is. Moving on to the next one on that list is Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. And I'm also going to mention, because it's not in this collection, I'm going to mention another Dracula film as well, Lee Dracula film as well. That being Dracula Prince of Darkness, which was which after Brides of Dracula, that's when Lee came back to the Dracula role. So I'm going to talk about Dracula Prince of Darkness. Dracula Prince of Darkness is basically a movie where Dracula doesn't talk. He does not speak at all. He basically is like a silent monster, and that kind of adds to it. And it was also that Lee refused to say any of the words. This is not Bram Stoker. It's these lines are garbage. I'm not going to do it. So it's kind of fun to see that Lee had the balls to be I'm not saying these lines. I'm just going to be silent and scary. And that kind of works in his favor. I also love how this almost feels like a slasher movie in its own right. People in an old dark house. I also like the priest in the movie, where he's this hunter as well as he does not give a fuck. I love when the priest comes by a group of people who are about to stake this woman's corpse, and he just shoots a gun off, and he's just barbarians. And he he's one of the priest characters are always they're either timid or they fall to corruption or they're old and saintly. Here, he's old and saintly, but also a gun-wielding badass. So the priest is... I like when he just come barging into the bar and he just throws a dead pig on the table and is just food for the village. And then just starts warming his ass by the fire. He's oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. Hi, what's up? he's the priest is one of the best parts of this movie. But again, it doesn't take away from Lee being just an absolute terror in this movie. Next is my other favorite of the Dracula sequels of the Hammer films, and that's Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. This one is a pretty dark story. This also has Dracula actually speaking, and it's more of a I also love the whole thing of like the power of belief. With one character, Paul, there's a lot of Pauls in Hammer films. You just got to get used to that. And there's also just this level of absolute like I love the whole thing of like it talks about belief and the power of belief, and it's not really the cross that has any power over Dracula, it's the belief you have. And it always made me go, does it have to be like that? Always made my brain think of like, okay, if it's just belief that gives that gives you power to battle Dracula, because Paul's an atheist in the movie. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, Paul, it made me think, so if you were like Jewish or Hindu, would your belief in Buddha or, if your faith in the Jewish God, in the Druidic version of God, would that work? Would, here's an interesting one, would the power of being a Satanist, if you're a Satanist in battling Dracula, does that weaken him or get him stronger, right? If you believe in the power of if you're Muslim and you believe in Muhammad, does that give you power over Dracula? That was such a cool concept that doesn't really get talked about a lot. Like that's a concept that always stuck with me. So yeah. Anyway. So what else was there? Also, just for another Lee film real quick, another Lee film I'm going to talk about, it's not connected to the Hammer films, it's actually an Italian horror film called Count Dracula, which was a film that basically was meant to be more closer to the books, even though it doesn't really have any connection to the books, and it also has Christopher Lee as the character, playing with a big mustache, and he actually, again, Lee as Dracula, right behind. It's always that big argument between the big three, which we'll talk about right now. So those are the four other. This list has four Lee Dracula films, but it's hard not to. Next up, we're going to talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is the other one, like Gary Oldman's Dracula, and this is Francis Ford Coppola's, I think, one of his best movies. I think it has a lot of great artistic value to it. Yes, Keanu Reeves, bad British accent, but honestly, it doesn't bother me. Especially when you hear in the interviews, he just overthought it and was really not thinking clear on it. So I think that's kind of the fun part, is that Dracula, this Dracula and this Keanu Reeves in Dracula, was basically a was just he's just overthinking it, so it doesn't bother me. Plus, when you really think about it, everyone's kind of having a weird accent in the film. But Oldman's Dracula is awesome. It's a very elegant and very savage. It walks that line of monster and man, and I really like that. This movie is gorgeous to look at, and it's an art piece. So yeah, I know. I just wanted to get those films out of the way because they're all it's hard not I know it's such a mainstream. So it's oh, you got to have Lee, Oldman, and Lugosi Dracula films in your favorite list. Yeah, because they're good fucking movies. It's not stupid to say that. They're without those Dracula films, probably wouldn't have a lot of vampire film inspiration to today. So yeah. So now let's go with some Dracula films that are off the beaten path, and that is we're going to start with this one because the only animated Dracula on the list, The Batman vs. Dracula. The Batman vs. Dracula is I like The Batman. The Batman was a great animated series, and this movie is actually surprisingly dark. This film is shockingly dark. You have blood and you have some scary moments in here too, with vampire Joker and shit. It's also one of the best interpretations of Dracula. I think Peter Stormare's voice does a great job of this low Eastern European accent. And again, we walk this line of they're not he's both monster and man. It's more animalistic. It's very much like a Lee kind of story. I really like it. There's also like shockingly violent for this kind of film. What was this movie rated? It was like PG, and I'm like, Jesus, especially how Batman takes out Dracula in this film. It's actually kind of shocking. Anyway, so next up, we're going to talk about a unsung Dracula movie, and that is Universal's 1979 remake of, well, Dracula. This is the Frank Langella Dracula. And Frank Langella, when it comes to Draculas, like, Frank Langella is not exactly, like, well remembered for a Dracula story. Like, he's not a memorable Dracula in the film. And admittedly, Langella is trying his best, and I think he was just kind of miscast for the film. But I will say that the rest of the cast, like Laurence Olivier as Van Helsing, you have Donald Pleasance as Seward, and also, this feels like an Italian horror movie. Like, there are just some amazing scenes in this film where it feels like a Italian horror film. Like, just how it's shot, the architecture, things like that. And I really do appreciate it. It's not a strong movie, and it's definitely not the best Dracula remake. Excuse me. But there is, like, things I like about it. Like, the reason why I got it on Blu-ray was because, like, there are things in here that I do enjoy. Sadly, Frank Langella's Dracula is pretty weak, I will admit. Doesn't feel like you want to be there. and again, there's a reason why he's not in, like, talks for best Dracula performance. It's also kind of an unsung movie, too. Next up is, the next one on our list is a movie I will defend, to an extent. And that is The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Last Voyage of the Demeter was a horribly underutilized film. I think it was like interesting that they had two Dracula. I don't understand why Universal gets to put out two Dracula films in 1 year. That seems like too many Dracula films in 1 year. This and Renfield. But Last Voyage of the Demeter, I was really excited about. Andre Overdahl is a great director. I love a lot of his films and excited for Bendy and the Ink Machine. I also think there's a lot going on for this film. Like, I think a lot of performances are great. I think that, I think also I think also, like, just the style of the film, and it's a cool story because this is a rare chance where we get to see not Dracula as like this suave and debonair kind of character. He's a monster. Like, there's no need for the man to be here. It's just the monster. So it's actually kind of cool to see that in form. And also, this is like the scariest Dracula we've had in a long time. It's usually like they try to have the sex appeal to Dracula and all that. But here it's like, no, there's no sex appeal here. There's no, like, loving story. This is Dracula as the monster. And it's a movie I really enjoyed. Also, when I came out of the theater watching this movie, when I left the theater watching this movie, some asshole said, I hated that movie and I love Bram Stoker's book. And I was like, you cocksucking son of a whore. That was the closest we've gotten to a Bram Stoker story in a while. Granted, they did take liberties, and I will say that the ending really kills the film. I think the ending really kills the movie. I know it's trying to set up like sequel bait, but it didn't need a sequel. I always said the best way they could have ended this film, the best way they could have ended this film is have it that the journal is being read by Dr. Van Helsing, and then we go into the rest of the story. Like, he's in a carriage reading the logs, and then he's in a carriage and he steps off to go into the Lucy Westros's house to, like, check on her. That's the best ending you could have given it, because this movie doesn't need a sequel, especially the one they were trying to, like, hype up. And the alternate ending would have also been pretty awful too. But anyway, having said all that, I think the movie is still good. I think it's highly underrated as a Dracula film. So I will defend it up to an extent of, like, the ending, and I think also it's a little too long at points. But I still think it's a solid Dracula film. Anyway, so The last movie I'm gonna talk about, um, the last movie I'm gonna talk about on this list, um, is a the last movie I think yeah, I'm definitely going to talk about it on the list. Even though it's not really a Dracula film, it is Dracula adjacent. So I'm going to say that The Monster Squad, just for shits and giggles, because I think that Dracula is a lot of fun and it's a great Monster Mash movie. Anyway, so there you go, guys. Those are my 10 favorite Dracula films. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what are your 10 favorite Dracula films? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.